Hello, everyone. Welcome back to You Hate to See It. I'm Adam,
I'm Jeff.
and this week we are joined by a very special guest. We have Susan. Am I pronouncing it right? Susan Lanier.
Lanier.
Lanier. So we have Susan Lanier from. She has been in a lot of '70s and '80s movies, but most notably for The Hills Have Eyes. And so, welcome to the show, Susan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, we're hanging in there. Going off of you were in The Hills Have Eyes. What was it like working with Wes Craven in his early days of becoming the icon that he is now?
Well, the Hills Have Eyes was Wes Craven's second movie,
Mhm.
and so he already had. He had been a school teacher prior to the first movie, Last House on the Left.
Mhm.
And so he was really kind. He was so sweet, and he had enough experience from the first movie to be very confident about making the second movie, but he still had that school teacher personality that carried over into how he treated people on the set. And not that he treated us like students by any means, but he just had a patience and a kindness that stands out with all the many directors I've worked with over the years as one of the coolest, most respectful
Mhm.
directors I've worked with for actors' work.
I guess his way of writing horror and did you ever see anything about him that would kind of clue into, yeah, this guy has like some messed up kind of mind here to write some of these weird psychological things, or was he just kind of the straight man, like normal, like?
Well, I mean, my opinion, excuse me, I have a little sinus thing. My opinion is that everybody has a bit of a dark side, I mean, everybody's got the light and the dark, and in his writing he let the darkness come out. Just meeting him on the street, you would never imagine that he would write horrific horror. At the time it was considered pretty terrifying and horrific. I starred in the movie, so I, ran across a lot of people who said, "Oh my God, I couldn't watch it," or that rape scene was so terrifying. I just couldn't watch it. It was much too much. It's lightweight compared to what they showed today. I mean, it's nothing. It's just, it's Disney,
Yeah.
now compared to what they show now. But at the time, in regards to Wes's darkness, there was always a little twinkle behind those eyes. There was always a little, I know,
Yeah.
kind of, it's always kind of a little secret. What I think, which is, I think, a really great trait for artists to have, a certain mystique about them, or a certain secret that they might be carrying. And I'm sure that Wes had that going on, particularly being able to do it, doing the writing that he did then and going forward. So anyway, yeah, I didn't, you wouldn't go into Target and meet Wes and go, "Oh, this is a very dark guy."
Yeah.
No, nothing like that.
I'd be surprised if I found him in a Target.
Yeah.
I will tell you, as he went on and he became more successful even after our movie, and I saw him all through the years. We never totally lost touch. There would be years where I wouldn't see him, but then we would have an event or a screening and I'd be sitting with him and we'd be hanging out. He never lost his down to earth stuff going on. So I'm sure he probably did put a foot into Target once in a while. Maybe even Walmart, who knows?
Going back a little bit to your point on like how horror back then is like Disney stuff now, I think like, and something that, I mean, even just based off of The Last House on the Left, who we actually interviewed, Mark Scheffler from that movie a while back, and going into this movie, it might not be like the traditional horror, but I feel like it really delves deep into more like the female aspect of horror, meaning like just going through the rapes and the like, even in Last Off on the Left, like them making the girls like pee on each other, and like the whole psychological stuff that goes on with women that terrifies so many just girls and women even still today. And I know watching these movies with my fiance, like she gets terrified by these movies because that's a real thing that happens to people still. And so what was it like doing some of coming about some of these things, portraying these tough challenges for a woman?
Well, with my own character, Brenda, I love the way Wes structured the character to grow from being the 16-year-old naive, shallow, we're going to be French fries, and California, boys, and I can't remember the lines, but she was so shallow, and then to have be victimized, and then to survive. Brenda is actually probably the hero. Brenda and Bobby are the heroes of it, but Brenda is victimized more than Bobby. She's been raped by two of these monsters, and so for her to survive it all and then to be able to kill all of them with Bobby, and the dogs, and everybody. Well, I think that's it. For us to survive it, and for Brenda to be strong in that last scene where I come with the axe and I get the guy at the end. I love the fact that Wes had enough respect for the characters that I wasn't just a victim, but it was a growing experience. And I went from shallow victim to survivor and strong person, So I thought that was somewhat evolved, a lot of times in those days, and now I guess women continue to just be victimized, and that's it. And there's no no revenge, or
Yeah. What was the process like of getting cast in that movie?
I had been John Travolta's girlfriend on Welcome Back, Kotter, and had been making a name for myself in LA. I had guest starred on I'd been a series regular on Tony Orlando and Dawn's, doing stand-up comedy with George Carlin. George Carlin and I were teamed up as a comedy team on that show a lot. And so I had already been working with, Alice Cooper, Freddie Prinze, and, I had done a huge play in Hollywood where I had starred at the Amundsen with Richard Chamberlain, in Night of the Iguana with Raymond Massey, and classical actors. And so the casting director knew about me. Wes and Peter Locke, the producer, had seen me guest star on television. And so it wasn't really, I didn't have to audition. They just called me in to play the lead of Brenda. And Wes and I did a short little improv, and there on the spot, they told me that I had the part if I wanted it. My agent didn't want me to do it because horror was kind of a stigma in 1976. I had a lot of classical theater training credits, and I had done some really good television. And so my agent thought it would be a bad thing for me to do that with my career. But I wanted to star in a movie, and I really liked Wes. And so I just said, well, no, I really want to do this movie, and did it. So, and I have no regrets about that. I'm getting ready to do a horror conventions, in a few weeks. And, it's like The Hills Have Eyes was life-changing in terms of my actual life, not as much on my career as my life, career too. But so, that's,
And so you did a lot of and you mentioned this a little bit before you got the role in The Hills Have Eyes. You did a lot of TV work and a lot of I would say like a few sitcom stuff. And so what was it like? What's kind of the difference, I guess, between doing some of these TV things that aren't horror, doing drama or comedy or what have you, and going to going into horror? What are like the similarities and what are some of the differences besides the obvious ones?
Well, unlike actresses who consider themselves scream queens,
Mm-hmm.
or exclusively horror. I do not think of myself as in that way. I started in comedy,
Yeah.
and got my best credits in comedy, and so I will go do a horror movie. I have one coming out soon. I've done horror because I have that credit from The Hills Have Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But going from TV to film, it's all a job, and none of it is easy. We are taught to make it look easy. It looks easy, but it's a lot of memorization. It's a lot of focus, and it's a lot of knowing what you're doing on the set and how to match your blocking and things that people don't, that you see it on TV and you don't know what goes into it. So it's all the same to me. I just love to work. I love to work as an actor. I've been an actress since I was 13. So I knew that's what I wanted to do at 13. And so I just, I go from job to job. I'm up for a huge new television series. A few weeks ago, I did a podcast series called Exeter with Jean Triplehorn. I'm on that, playing the character of Bernice, and she's just a Southern hick, and a serial. And she is a serial killer. So, I just love to work, and I'm just one of those actors that keep working. And I do not, absolutely do not like to be tagged as just horror.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy, because I play very off the wall characters many times. And Brenda was not a glamorous actress. I don't think of myself as a glamour actor. I like to play salty, dysfunctional characters, drunks and homeless people and hardcore people, and that's my preference. It's always more fun. So going from TV to film to me was I go from TV, film, theater, cabaret, and I'm always doing one of the other. Yeah. So it's all the same to me. Work is work, and it's fun.
So where would you say, because I looked at your IMDb earlier and I'm looking at it now, you were in a couple episodes of Days of Our Lives. How was that compared to the rest of all those? Because I feel like soap operas are a whole different realm.
They really are. And that's a great statement. They're harder to do because they're only going to do 1 or 2 takes. Because of the time frame. They have to get so much filmed every day because it is so structured. So the moment you get to the set, you park, they take you straight into makeup. They put on your makeup, then back to hair, then to wardrobe. You're on the set. There's no time really to think or wait or breathe, because they have the actors coming in just in time to do all that, and then to do your takes or your part. And and man, you better have your lines memorized. So there's not it's, to me, soaps are harder to do than any of it. None of it's easy, but soaps to me are the hardest.
Yeah, because I always wondered, because I remember my mom watching like soap operas growing up and like thinking about that as like, since it comes a new episode like literally every single day, I'm like, how in the world would it be to just walk around the set, and like, is it just everyone chaotically scrambling, like people reading scripts continuously over and over?
You're exactly right. You're cramming the whole time. So while you're in makeup, you've got your lines and and a lot of people as they get older, their memories aren't quite as sharp. I do all these exercises and things, and I'm self-taping almost every day, and I try to memorize every word, even of the auditions, because it keeps the brain cells actively learning to memorize. If you let that muscle relax, there are a lot of actors my age and generation that the memory bank is, the cells aren't as active, and so yeah. I mean, you're cramming on the soap opera. I My least favorite genre, actually.
I, I feel like that's everyone's least favorite genre, except like the 45-year-old moms that stay home. Like that's
Yeah,
The only people that have time to watch it.
yeah.
and in the 70s and 80s, soaps were huge. They've canceled so many of them. They're just not as popular as they were. And Days of Our Lives, which I've done, um, has survived. But One Life to Live, and I can't even remember all of them. That's one that sticks out in my mind. They were mostly shot in New York. There were a handful in LA, but a lot of the big soaps were done in New York from their very earliest, conception. And so those, most of them have been canceled. So it with times change, and I think we all have to kind of change with it. And maybe they'll come back. You never know. Everything's cyclical. But I think that the internet and people are into Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all this stuff. And I think that people only have so much time during the day. So sitting there and watching an hour soap opera, you're right, it's not 45. I think the generation that still might be into that is 85.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. And how do you see like this whole streaming landscape that we have now? Do you think that like cable TV and the soap opera industry and like all these like ABC's sitcoms and that, do you think those are a dying breed because we have streaming now, or do you think they're going to hold the test of time?
Well, there are so many streaming or networks. I think ABC, NBC, CBS is kind of like, okay, how many reality shows and how many game shows and how many talent shows are you going to put on?
Yeah.
That's all got to die out at some point. Those networks don't want to pay the money, or maybe they don't have the budget of actually putting in the kind of money that Amazon and Netflix and Hulu and all these streaming networks are putting a lot of money into production value and hiring real actors. Real actors can't even work on the major networks anymore. I mean, I just auditioned for NCIS this week, and if I make it, then I'd be on another network show. But they're not budgeting their content like these streaming platforms, which I don't even know that a lot of people even watch television anymore. They're all streaming. So I think they're great because they're well written, they're beautifully directed. The production quality is equal to going to a movie theater. And so Strange Things and Westworld, these are Ozark, these are wonderfully made projects. And I think networks are really suffering from being so greedy. They went through this long time frame where they just weren't hiring very many actors. And when they do, they want to pay you minimum wage, union wage, of course. But they got so greedy that they started putting all this reality content. And I don't know a lot of people that watch that.
Yeah. I feel like reality content's just easier to do anyway. So like it's cheap and easy, and you can make lots of money from it.
You
Just
can make lots of money from it. I mean, the talent, maybe they get $25, $100. I think a lot of people do it for free. If they're not in the union. I would never ever think of I write music and I do my cabaret show and I'm a musician, and I would never do one of those shows unless they were paying me big bucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about, back in the day, you did the second of 3 pilots for Three's Company, and I tried reading up on just the craziness of why there was 3 pilots of a TV show in the first place, because that's just weird, like just weird to me. And there's not a whole lot about it. It's just like, yeah, they did it. So do you have any insight on to how and why there was 3 pilot episodes for Three's Company, and how you became a part of only the second pilot and didn't make it to the rest of the show?
The original Three's Company was done in London, in England. It was an English sitcom, and that was when all those British sitcoms were really, really popular, and it was very popular in England. So Fred Silverman, who was the head of ABC, I think at the time, I can't remember the network. It was ABC, I'm sure. And so he had done 1 pilot with John. I don't think with Joyce. But maybe Joyce, I'm not sure. Anyway, they did 1, and then the network wanted to recast the whole thing except for John, and then it was months and months, maybe a year later, they decided to do the pilot I was involved in, but they had another girl. That I was a girl at the time. They had another girl playing Chrissy, and I had just returned home. They had been in rehearsal for 3 or 4 days, and I had just gotten in from the desert from shooting The Hills Have Eyes, and they decided that they wanted to replace her for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So I had lost 4 days of rehearsal. I was also known as a quick study. I've always been great with memorization. And so I would replace people if people, I had proven myself as a pro, So the casting director so I was in the supermarket, and my agent called and said, get over to ABC right now. And I said, I have dirt in my hair and I'm all messy and I smell, and oh my God, I've been on the road. And he goes, get over there right now. They're going to shower you, put you in makeup, do your hair, and wardrobe you. And I left my grocery cart full of groceries at the Market Basket in Studio City that no longer exists. And I whipped my car down to ABC, parked, and I was like this statue. I stood there like this. They showered me, makeup, hair. They had the lines on big cards that I could kind of look at the lines while they were doing whatever they were doing to me. I was like a mannequin. And then I went on the set, and they had some cue cards, and I did one of the big Chrissy scenes. Now I didn't have the part yet. This was my audition. Mm-hmm. And and they didn't have internet where you could send the tape. And Freddie Silverman was in New York. Mm-hmm. So they took a private jet, flew my big tape, they were in big boxes at that time, not little files, flew the tape to New York. He looked at it in the middle of the night, New York time, 3 hours earlier here. And I got a call like at 8 o'clock in the morning, get up, get showered. You got the part. We're negotiating it now. Just get dressed. You're going to do it. And so I was exhausted already, but I did all that. I was excited, and I got over there, and I had to learn the lines in makeup and hair. And, I don't know, we did the taping about 3 days later. So I had about 3 days of rehearsal and then the taping. So
Mhm.
I'd lost 4 days of rehearsal. And so we did it in front of a live audience, and people knew me from Welcome Back, Kotter, and I got a lot of laughs and a lot of questions and attention
Mhm.
after the show. And I'm not sure what the issue was. You never know. And my agent had negotiated probably too much money for me to do it. And it wasn't a proven series in the United States yet. And it was either budget issues or I don't know. You never know why you're replaced, but you know, actors have to have a very, very tough skin. And part of the game is rejection. Part of the game is huge success. And part of the game is huge failure and rejection. And you've got to be able to go on that roller coaster without freaking out,
Yeah.
and only, if you don't freak out, you'll have another high on the roller coaster. But if you freak out on the low, that's when a lot of people quit. I mean, it's just a show. I mean, it's a huge show. And would I've loved to have done it? Yeah, but maybe it wasn't meant to be, and other things opened up, like my music career, which I've loved doing. And you can be any age for that. I can sit at that piano and write songs until I keel over, you know what I mean, until it's over. And so I wouldn't have done that career had I probably continued on Three's Company. And Suzanne only lasted a season. So, it was pretty political too back then.
So now you've mentioned it going into your music career. How did you start going about doing that and make any transition from being an actor to being a musician?
Well, I always been in love with all of the arts. And when I was a young girl working in the theater and whatever, there's such a thing called a triple threat. And we were taught as actors that you don't only act, you learn to dance and sing and dance, or whatever order you want to put them in. You've got to be a triple threat to be. And my goal was not to come to LA. It was to go to New York and just do theater. I didn't really, I never thought about fame or money. That is not what motivated me to go into acting. I didn't even think of those things. I didn't even know if I'd ever get a professional role of any kind. I just wanted to act. And along with that, I'd been taught to dance. I had gone to dancing school when I was 3, and I'd kept that up. And then I was always singing in the shower, and I was singing in the high school musicals. And then when I went to New York, I studied voice, and I was cast in Hair on Broadway. And then it seems like singing was involved in a lot of my projects. So after I met my now late husband, Delaney Bramlett of Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, he was a very, very famous songwriter. He'd written Superstar and Let It Rain, and he'd produced Eric Clapton. And so when we got together as a married couple, at that time we weren't married, he had said, "Come on, help me write this song." And so I'd write. My strong suit was lyrics, and his was music, but both. He was a genius, and I fell in love. I've been in love with music my whole life, but he was so great and better than any kind of music school you could ever go to. I mean, people studied with him. He taught Eric Clapton how to sing, and Jimi Hendrix was in his band, and all those people. I didn't meet Jimi Hendrix, but wonderful musicians were always at our house. And we had a recording studio, and everybody wanted to record there. So it was an amazing ride in the music business. In the 80s, I started my own little country band just for fun, played at the Palomino in LA, had great reception, and then started doing cabaret. And I like to do a little comedy along the way to combine some of my career with my music. And so I write songs that are profound for the day. You know, I have a song called On the Way to Woodstock, which kind of tells you about my age generation. But
you don't look a day over 29.
Thank you. But I just think music is so much fun. The great thing about music is that you're not depending on a casting director or an agent or a manager to say, yes, you can go do this, or yes, you can go make this money, or yes, you got the job. No, I just put a band together and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And you have more control over your art and your life. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy either. You got to keep, booking yourself or getting somebody to book you. And, or you just do it for pleasure. Right now, all of my acting, voiceover, I do teach acting sometimes, and my music, it all kind of just, I do what I'm in the mood for. Prior to this Zoom, I just finished a writing group. I'm in a writing group that's based in New York, LA, London, and it's some fine actors in that group that are all writing on projects, producers and directors, and it's a very exclusive group. And I'm writing a memoir about living in New York in 1967 as a runaway. So it's very dark, and so I'm never bored with my creative endeavors.
Of all of the projects that you've worked on, be it film, TV, theater, music, what is I would say like your top 3 things that you would tell someone, like if they want to know like who you are as a person or as an actress or what have you? What are the top 3 things, projects of yours that you would tell people to go check out?
Well, I guess my new stuff. I mean, if you haven't seen The Hills Have Eyes, then it's old. I like to think that I think this new podcast I'm doing, it's about crime and stuff. I mean, that's worth checking out. I've got I have 2 CDs that are available on iTunes. My first one was Swamp Cabaret. I have a new one I'm releasing called Allergic to Texas. And then I have a couple of films coming out. So, I guess I want people to look at my new stuff. I'm not dead yet.
And also, is there any projects that you really, really wanted to work on? Any auditions that you did that you just, for whatever reason, didn't get that you really wanted?
Yeah, I really wanted that role on NCIS and I didn't get it. So that was a bummer. I'm just being honest. You can't win them all. And people don't know this, but when a casting director releases a breakdown for characters, they can receive as many as 13,000 submissions for each role. Mm-hmm. Not for the project, for each role. So I got to a callback level where the producers actually saw my audition, and I got really close, but no cigar. But out of 13,000, and you keep rising to the top, that is pretty good. And everybody's on a time schedule. So they cast things very quickly. And the producer wrote me and said, you did a great job. And we went in another direction, but we're going to write you something bigger. So that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the rejection part of it. You just got to let it roll off your back. You know?
I'm trying to even remember. I think it was about a year ago. So I'm by all means not an actor. I work in the film industry, but I'm a production assistant. I just do the simple things. I like to be on the set and work on that, and I'm testing my hands at writing and trying to get somewhere with that. But there was I played hockey growing up, and they were I heard through the grapevine that they were casting a new like hockey, like kids hockey movie with like a bunch of teenagers. And when I fully shave, I look like I'm 12. So I was like, oh, I can definitely try and do this. And they wanted me to, I got all the way to video auditions and like got pretty far, considering. And but yeah, I didn't get that. And when I was telling people like, yeah, I didn't get it, people were like, oh, like I'm really sorry. I'm like, I guess like it's whatever. Like I'm also like at the time I was like, I'm a 24-year-old trying to play an 18-year-old. So I was like, I wasn't too heartbroken by that. I was like, but like I people were felt bad for me because I would clean shaven, which I never go clean shaven. So I was clean shaven, and I also, because it's a hockey movie and all hockey players have really long hair, so I'd been growing my hair out to make, because they wanted everyone to have actual long hair for it. So I had like this long hair and was clean shaven, and people were like, "Oh, you did all that and you didn't even get the role." I was like, "I guess that's just how it is. I don't know."
That's just how it is. It's harder for girls than it is boys. But what you just said was kind of informative to me about how I think of women having to prepare more because we have to do our makeup and do our hair and figure out what to wear. And I haven't heard it from a male perspective. I where I grew my hair and I shaved my beard, but that is what actors have to do. That's how that's our job, to try to also look as close to the character as we can without being ridiculously over the top with it. But encouraging to you, 24 easily plays 18 on film. So you weren't off base with the age. I played 16 till I was 30. So that is true. And so it's being cast, you don't know if the director or producer is wanting to use their own kids, are wanting to use their best friends, are their best friends' kids, are, it's a who business as well. Everything else. And you just, people like to work with the people that they know. And because you're going to be on the set, you're going to share time together. So it's hard to be a wallflower and stay at home, mom or dog walker or something, when the people that you need to meet, you never know where they're going to be or how you're going to network with them. Many times I prefer to stay home. It might be late, it might be cold, it might be winter, it might be dark, and the event might be in Hollywood, which is now, pretty edgy. But I get dressed and go because it's who you know. A lot of a lot of it's not. I mean, you have to know your agent and your manager, and it's their job, but they've got to go out and hustle to get us in. So when they say, I'd like to thank my team, well, they're not kidding. I mean, it's the team. And two things I did over COVID. I did a project called Red Rooms. We just won today another acting ensemble piece with Brooke Lewis, Bellis, and I can't remember all the but really good cast in Red Rooms. And so look that up. It's going to be streamed soon. We did that in COVID. And I'm really good friends with Brooke Lewis Bellis, who's a wonderful actress and producer. And she just asked me to do the part. There was no audition, will you play the senator? And I said, sure. So during COVID, we had to set it up. I also had a career off and on as a photographer. So if I had not learned behind the camera as much as I know in front of the camera. I think I'd be lost today because all of our auditions are self-taped. So we have to film, and I'm usually alone. So I have to film it myself. I have to get a reader. I have to do the makeup, the hair, the wardrobe, film it, edit it, and then send it in on every single audition. I did 4 this, and they're very time consuming. So I thank God I was a photographer, because a lot of women that are my age now, they don't know how to do any of that. And they haven't kept up with technology, which changes daily. And so they are not auditioning because they don't know how to do it, you know. But we filmed the whole thing in this room, and over to my right, and we filmed the whole thing in a corner of the room. It's very dark and horror sort of, and and you know, it's who you know. Now that was where I started with all this, and then I did another thing called Leave Quietly, which I think was a podcast thing, with Brooke as well. So, you know, but she, through her being the producer, introduced me to new directors that I'm sure I'll work with again. I have a sitcom on hold called Stripped with Casper Van Diem, and I'm hoping that gets picked up. I play a very funny woman named Ida. So, you know, we're waiting to see if that gets picked up. That was a real fun shoot.
Yeah, I totally get the whole, like, that's who you know aspect of the industry. Like I got my first job like 2 weeks before COVID kicked in, so that kind of screwed up a lot of plans, and it's been trying to get back into the industry since, basically. But basically, weirdly, so my mom is a veterinarian, and one of the people that she worked with's boyfriends was like a second AD. And so when they found out I got a film degree and stuff, they were like, oh, like, here, I'll set up like a lunch with you two. And I had lunch. We spent like 2 hours with each other, and he got me my first job and put me in contact with like 4 other people. And then it's just cold calling, and was able to get work that way, and have done some cool things. I like worked on the new Batman movie and a few other things. But again,
what city?
Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I've done a little bit of stuff, but nothing too extreme. But it's all just, I still get offers, but like I just bought a house, so I have like a mortgage, so I have like a full-time job that they will let me take time off with. But when they call you and say, can you be free tomorrow, and you no. No, I cannot be free tomorrow. I can be free next week. Does next week work? No. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
That's what I tell my students that study with me, my acting students, is that because this week, I got an audition for Beverly Hills Cops, and my manager sent me the sides, and they were due for casting to see the next morning. She sent me the script at 8:00 at night, and it was due the next morning. So you're either in the game with a commitment, with a job that will allow you to do that if you have a job outside of the business. That's how fast the turnaround and expectation. This is a big feature film.
Yeah.
It's a rather big part. 7 pages of a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Yes, I used a prompter on this one because even I was not going to be able to learn 7 pages in a few hours. Being sent the script at 8:00 at night, I was tired already. So, you know, it's impossible. So I used a prompter on that, but, and they will allow you to read it sometimes, but they don't like it. And usually the one that's not reading it's going to get it. But that's how short a notice it can often be.
Yeah.
Though I need to be doing my taxes, I need to be doing my workout at the gym. There are a whole list of things. I need to clean my house right now. I mean, there's a whole list of things I could tell you I need to be doing. Those have to wait until you get your work in.
Yeah.
People think it's so easy, and I love to tell the truth about it, because nobody has any idea. It just looks so glamorous and easy to do, and everybody thinks they can be an actor. And unless you have a certain temperament, it's impossible.
Yeah, and unless you're raking in those Robert Downey Jr. bucks, like it's just it's
But
so hard.
did you see the Val Kilmer documentary?
Not yet. I want to.
It was mind-boggling to me, because even after he'd had a great deal of success,
Mhm.
there were some roles coming up that Stanley Kubrick was directing, and he put himself on tape, just like we self-tape. He flew from LA to London, tracked down Stanley Kubrick, gave him the tape. I can't remember all the details from the documentary, but gave him the tape. He still did not get the job and was devastated about not getting the job. And so even with big stars, there is competition and work that goes into it. And all these actors now, like Amy Schumer and some of these other people, are having to produce, they're not only starring in them, executive producing them, directing them, doing the backside of it, promoting them. It's rough. It's
Yeah.
rough. And just because they're names, assistants can only do so much.
Yeah.
You're still hands-on.
Yeah. And I guess so. My the final question I got for you, is there a story that you wish people would ask you more about, or ask you about at all, that you don't get to tell, that you think is worth telling?
A story. Well, my favorite story is how the hills, my blessed and most beautiful story is how The Hills Have Eyes influenced my personal life, which was that it was released in 1977, and it was at the drive-in in LA. And my late husband had gone to see The Hills Have Eyes one night with his girlfriend. And the very next night, he was playing at the Starwood, and one of my dear friend's husband was in his band. And I didn't know him, Delaney Bramlett. And so I was invited to the Starwood to go hear him play. And I had to shoot the next day. And I went, oh no, I don't want to go here. I'm not going to go. And she said, come on, you're no fun anymore. All you do is work. And I went, okay, one set, then we're out of there. And it was Hollywood was Hollywood then. It was 77, Sunset Strip, and Hollywood was happening. And so I said, all right. So we drove, and one set we parked and went in, and she said, I got to tell Daryl we're here. And I said, okay. So she goes up to the stage, and Daryl, we're here. And he was playing trumpet, and he goes, he acknowledges it. And Delaney sees me because the light's on me from the stage. I'm close to the stage. And he puts down his guitar, and he comes over. He gets off, he tells the band to keep playing. He comes over and gets in front of me and says to me, what's your phone number? I saw you in a movie last night. And I said, oh, I have a boyfriend. And he goes, oh, I don't care. I don't give a shit. He said, give me your phone number. I'm going to marry you. I love the way you scream. And I thought, oh God, this guy's crazy. And so, he was persuasive. I gave him my phone number, and I was with him for 31 years. So, on and off, we had a few breakups, but it was like he was the love of my life, and I would never have met him, and he would never have paid attention to me had he not seen me at the drive-in the night before. Yeah. So, it's like The Hills Have Eyes changed my life personally in more ways than it did my career.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for telling us that story, and thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug before we let you go?
Not really, I mean, look for Exeter, and you can buy my CDs on iTunes, and I have some YouTube music videos you can check out if you want. Facebook, I have a spoof on Facebook, but please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't do too much TikTok yet. Plan to get into that. But I'm on, all the social medias. Most of it says Susan Lanier. I did music sometimes under Suze Lanier Bramlett. So I kind of work under both names. So I don't know why. My manager's not happy about that, but after you've lived this long, you can kind of change your name a few times.
Yeah.
Delaney wanted me to add Bramlett, so I did. And so for music, I do that. But anyway, Susan Lanier, IMDb. Follow me.
Thanks so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, peace out.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to this week's episode, and a special thank you to our special guest for coming on the show. If you liked the episode, come tell us your thoughts and join the conversation over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also share the episode and give us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, it would be great if you helped us out by becoming a patron. On Patreon, you get unedited video versions of most of our episodes, and you get some extra bonus content, such as the Taskmaster live streams that are no longer available for free out there in the universe. You have to get them on our Patreon. Also, we have our Goes to the Movies podcast, where Jeff watches movies for the very first time because Jeff doesn't enjoy friendship and refuses to watch movies all the time. So yeah, that'd be great. Also, you can find us on themisfitfaction.com. We are a part of that network now, and we are enjoying every second of it. All right, that's it for this week. Join us again next time, wherever you hate to see it.